Luke, back again for another PGA DFS video. This time we've got our core plays for this week's Houston, Texas Open. What we're going to do here is we're going to go price range by price range, talk about my foundational pieces in my lineups this weekend. These are going to be plays that not only have a very solid floor projection, but also have the upside necessary for those large field contests. We're back in Houston, we're back in the mainland, we're going to have shot length for once for this event, which is going to be a nice change of pace. Obviously, when we have shot length, when we have those shots gained metrics, we can make bets in live time. We can also do better showdown picks. We're able to dive into the player pool a little bit more. So back to usual business here on the channel, which is definitely going to be a nice change. Of course, we're going to have our value picks coming out tomorrow. We'll also have our fades and sleepers coming out later in the week, as well as our weekly DFS live stream. So all the normal content here on the channel for this regular week of golf, so make sure to look forward to that. But without further delay, let's hop right into the core plays here for this week in Houston. First off, we have Cameron Smith at $10,200, somebody who's not only coming in with really good form, also a really good course fit here for this golf course. Somebody who's an up and down specialist, gets it done with the iron play from time to time, and of course is good at hard tracks. That's exactly what we're looking for this week, and also coming in with sneaky good form. A lot of people wouldn't consider that when you first think of Cameron Smith. It's because we haven't seen him for a while. He took a break after those playoffs, had the second place finish at the Northern Trust of Tony Finau, had some solid finishes in there as well, including at the Tour Championship. So at $10,200, he is my favorite play on this slate. And on top of just being an up and down specialist, you're talking about a guy who's one of the best putters in the entire world, also tends to be accurate with the driver when he needs to be. We've seen that at golf courses that tend to be a little bit tighter. He tends to club down off the tee. He doesn't take quite as aggressive of a swing, and is able to really take those places apart. So at $10,200, somebody that is going to be a little bit lower owned because we haven't seen him as much, I think he could come out here and have a very strong start to his season. So even if he's just average with this ball striking, he's also somebody that can keep himself in contention. We've seen that time and time again. He's just that good around the green. He's that good with his putting that he can really keep himself in a golf tournament. So I really like his floor. Again, I really like his ceiling if he continues that ball striking momentum that we've seen of late. So that's why he finds himself at the top of my board. For our next tier, we have our second man in, which is going to be Joaquin Niemann at $9,500. Also checking all the boxes that we're looking for this week. Somebody who's coming in with good recent form. He ranks as the 28th ranked golfer in the field there. In terms of course fit, he's the 16th ranked golfer. So he had a solid week last week at the Mito Championship. He was somebody who we featured prominently in our player pool and really has looked a lot better these last 2-3 weeks than we saw for the end of last year. He was very good at the beginning of last season. Almost took down a win, ended up taking down a win towards the end of the year. Actually, sorry, that was a playoff loss at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. But that aside, somebody who fell off. He started to really play poorly towards the end of the year. The ball striking didn't look anything like it did towards the beginning of that season when he ended up almost coming through with that win. But last week at the Mito Championship, he looked much, much more like himself. Was good at driving the ball. He was being aggressive off the tee when he didn't have to. It was keeping it in play. Was also rolling his rock beautifully as well. So if he's able to continue that momentum with the ball striking, he's still underpriced for this field. Somebody who's truly a top 5, even top 6 golfer for this quality of field. And while the around the green metrics don't look great, he's typically right around neutral in that category. He's still in the top 10% of tour players in terms of actually getting up and down. A lot of that's been carried by his putter, somebody who's a very gritty putter, tends to make a ton of putts for par, but it doesn't matter how you're getting the ball in the hole. If you're getting it in for par when you're missing greens, that's really all that matters. And the icing on the cake here for Niemann are his performances at hard tracks. We've seen him play well at the Masters. We saw him play well at the BMW Championship a couple years ago, nearly winning that damn thing. So it's not necessarily indicative of future success when we take a look at these hard tracks. We know he's been good on fast greens, so I think there's a little bit more to it than we've seen in the past. For his career on these fast greens, again, he's been better than average, gaining an additional 0.12 shots gained putting per round on those type of greens. So we're going to be seeing those greens this week. Somebody I'm buying in on. Again, if he continues that ball striking momentum, somebody who could very easily win this event. Next up, we have Shane Lowry for our bread and butter play at $8,200. Somebody who's also very consistent. He's checking all the boxes that we're looking for in terms of recent form and course fit. Top 21 in both of those categories. And he's somebody who was a core play for me last week. Unfortunately, went out and missed the cut, but I'm willing to go back to him. Not only are we getting somebody who's also a good course fit for this week, also somebody who's going to come in with, first of all, a lower price, but also much likely lower ownership. So he has the ball striking that we're looking for here. He's great with his approach play, particularly over those last 3 months. He's long enough off the tee. He tends to do it a little bit more with his accuracy, which is going to be all right here. This is a long track, but like I said, he's at least long enough to get by, but he's an around the green specialist, and that's where he's really going to make his hay. The greens here tend to be some of the toughest that they're going to see on tour. You're going to be short-siding yourself from time to time, and having the ability to pull a shot out of nowhere is going to be huge. Putting is also going to be something that isn't as important this week. Because the greens are so tough, you tend to find some of the worst putters on tour tend to excel here. A lot of that comes down to pace. You really just have to hit your line and hope that you hit the pace right, because the pace is going to be almost impossible to get down. So sometimes you see some of the best putters on tour struggle at an event like this. Lowry, he's a little bit above average in terms of putting, but when we put him on these hard greens, tends to be one of the best putters on tour. We take a look at fast greens, gains an additional 0.56 shots gained per round, which is by far the biggest split of anyone in this field. And just think of the Open Championship, just think of Memorial, all these golf courses where Shane Lowry has had success. It's where you have these undulations on the green. So a lot of people are going to be scared to go back to him. I mean, hell, I was at first. But the reality is, if you put that missed cut aside, this guy would have easily been priced in the 9K range, would have also been extremely chalky. Now we get him down to $8,200 and likely at sub 5% ownership. I mean, we don't have the ownership projections done yet, but I imagine he's not very popular. So really like him there, $8,200. Going to be a prominent feature of a lot of my lineups this week. Next up, we got our value tier. That is going to be Mito Pereira at $7,700. Much like Shane Lowry, somebody that we're going back to that missed the cut last week. He was also on our core plays video. But in terms of recent form and in terms of course fit, he is the only player outside of that 10K range to hit the top 10 in both categories, which is something we don't typically see, particularly from a value play. He kind of fell off these last 2 events, obviously missed the cut at Mayakoba the week before that, hardly made the cut, didn't really have a very good week. And after a near last place finish, I definitely could see this as a spot for him to bounce back. Both of those tracks were right about 7,000 yards or less. And Mito really makes his hay with his distance. He's one of the longest hitters on the PGA Tour, hits it right about 320 yards per average with his driver, but also hits it incredibly straight. I mean, Corey Connors type straight, Sungjae In type straight with his driver, is hardly ever missing a fairway. So when you get him at a track like this that has some length to it, he's going to be at a massive advantage, particularly if the rough is penal. And here at Memorial Park, the rough was 3 inches last year. It was giving players absolute fits because it's Bermuda grass. I think he's going to have a massive week. And now that we're on this long track, he's also going to be able to take apart these par 5s. There's a ton of par 4s that are over 500 yards here. And again, just like Lowry, people are going to be scared to play him. And the reality is, those golf courses, even over the last 3, even 4 events, just haven't been good fits for him. And those first 2, he went out and had very good performances. Obviously made the cut in the 3rd. It was just the last time out where he failed, and we really should have expected that to happen earlier. Those tracks were not good fits for him. He's somebody who, again, really needs that length to go out and take apart a golf course, but still was performing. I mean, he was making putts. He was very good on approach, even with his wedges, which he's not known for. So even though he did have that miscut, I think people are looking into it a little bit too much, and I will look to be taking advantage of that this week here in our DFS lineups. Next up, we have our diamond in the rough, which is going to be Ryan Palmer at $7,100. Somebody who the modeling doesn't look great, especially in terms of recent form. They're at 112, but with course fit comes in at a respectable number. And I think that a lot of that recent form is due to the fact that we haven't seen him play very much. The last 4 or 5 events he's played on tour have been non-shot link level events. So when we take a look at his numbers, a lot of it's clouded, a lot of it's very noisy, because he's one of the few players with only 8 to 12 rounds in that metric. And if we take a look at his course fit historically, this should be a great track for him. He's somebody who may not be the longest player off the tee. He's right about average, but he gets it done with his accuracy. He's great on approach. He's really good at getting up and down. Might not be the best putter on tour, but when we've seen him have success, it's been at these hard tracks with undulating greens. I mean, just think about the Masters, had a very solid round there. Also had a very good round at the Memorial, has played well at Liberty National. I mean, just pretty much every comp course we can think of. I mean, even the Honda Classic, PGA National down there, he's gotten it done. So he has the approach play we're looking for. He has the accuracy off the tee. at least slightly above average in terms of that category. And he's shown that prowess at these hard tracks in the past. He's from Texas. And again, even though this does not resemble Texas courts whatsoever, looks a lot more like a course in North Carolina, that kind of thing, or even South Florida. I still think that he's going to at least have some local vibes here. He's going to be a little bit more used to the wind than most people, but more than anything here, he's a good course fit. So somebody I'll be investing in at $7,100 at a very favorable price tag as well. But now for our flyer play, that's going to be Wyndham Clark at $6,600. And yes, you did not mishear me. That is Wyndham Clark, somebody who hasn't really been heard of in quite some time, but these are some of the best opportunities to go out and deploy him when he's essentially 2% owned at the very most. He's coming in this mid 6K range. He's somebody who's got elite distance off the tee, and something that you usually don't equate with Wyndham Clark, but it's been the case for his entire career. He's elite around the green, one of the best players in terms of getting up and down, and he misses his fair share of greens, that's for sure. He tends to be one of the worst approach players from week to week, but when he finds that iron play, he can go out and win a golf tournament. He's really that good with every other part of his game. He's a solid putter, gains over half a stroke per round on Bermuda grass. He's, again, elite off the tee in terms of his accuracy and one of the best around the green players. So really all we're looking for is that approach play. If he can bring that around, going to be a very good week for him. The thing that I think boosts him a little bit in my modeling this week is his performances in the past at comp courses. If we take a look at PGA National specifically, this is where he's had his best 3 performances ever on the PGA Tour. We have undulating Bermuda grass greens there, a ton of wind that comes into play. So one of my biggest comp courses this week, somebody I'll be taking a chance on, is definitely going to be Wyndham Clark. And again, the beauty here, he's only $6,600. He's also going to be sub 2% owned. So it's not like we have to invest very much into him to get that leverage. I'll likely have him at about 10-15% of my lineups this week, and that's why he makes this list as my flyer pick. That is all for this week's core picks. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you've got winning this week's golf tournament. Obviously for me, I think Cam Smith has the best chance to go ahead and do so, but let me know who you guys got. I always love to hear from you. And as always here on the channel, I appreciate all of your support a ton. If you guys haven't already liked the video, if you haven't already gotten a chance to subscribe to the channel as well, make sure you guys go ahead and do so. We're going to have value picks coming out tomorrow morning. We're going to have fades and sleepers as well. And on Wednesday evening, of course, our weekly DFS live stream is going to be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to stop by when you guys are making your lineups. Make sure to bring any questions you have for fantasy golf as well. We'll make sure to get to them. We'll also cover the weather, any tee time splits, any game theory, pretty much anything you guys want to talk about on Wednesday in regards to this golf tournament. So a link will be in the description for that as well if you guys want to set a reminder. But until then, good luck with all of your lineups for this week. Go Steelers tonight. Got them for Monday Night Football against the Bears, and I'll see you guys next time.